Welcome back to the Here We Go Again podcast. You're once again joined by myself, Luke Gallagher, my colleague Mike O'Gara, and today, episode 3, Super John McGinlay. How are you, John?
I'm very well, thank you.
So it's kind of a run through your career from start to finish, really. Obviously, we'll get on to Bolton, there's plenty to talk about. Started off at Fort William in Scotland. How was that?
Well, that was my hometown club. That's where I was brought up. And, you know, Fort William itself wasn't really a football town, it was a shinty town. And shinty's a game played with sticks. And really to further your career or progress, you had to move, really. So, but no, thankful, they gave me a good start and a good grounding, so they set me on my way as such.
What was the standard like? Was it sort of not the best at that time up there? Or?
Well, it was a Highland League.
Yeah.
And Fort William actually weren't in the Highland League, but they were allowed in the cup competitions. So, you know, our games were few and far between us as such, really, but it was a good level, and you know, I'd made my debut for them when I was 14. So, you know, going into man's football at that age and physically and everything else, you're left a bit wanting, but it soon makes your mind up, and it soon gets you a bit wise to it all.
14. Wow, playing man's football at 14.
Yeah, like you said, I bet you got some bumps and bruises from that back in the day.
I also learned quickly how to maybe avoid them as well. You know what I mean? But no, you did. It was a case of you learn quite quickly you had to give as good as you got, or else you'll just run over the top of, you know what I mean? So again, at that age, it was a good start to a certain extent.
Nairn County, was that a sort of similar standard, or was that like a step up?
No, that was a step up. Nairn County were in the Highland League, and we actually went through to play them on a pre-season game, and the manager basically signed me after the game, when we played them. So that was a step up. I mean, it was a bit of travelling. It was 3 times a week up to Nairn and back to Fort William, which, you know, was a couple of hours either way. But again, it was a step up for me, which was probably right at the time.
What was the travelling like? Because how old were you when you signed for Nairn County? Were you
17.
17?
Yeah.
And were you driving then, or?
Yeah.
Only just?
Pretty much only just,
yeah.
But no, it was one of them where, you know, it was a big commitment.
Yeah.
You know, because you had to be there for training, and it was a discipline thing as well. Things you got away with your local club, you didn't get away with it. It was more professional.
Yeah,
at that
just
time.
a step up in standard all over the board.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was good for me, and you know, I was there and I played a lot of games, scored quite a lot of goals for them, and at the time, my manager at the time, Malcolm Cowie, was moving out to New Zealand, and I ended up going out to play in New Zealand, so I went out there for a season. So it was a very good experience.
That must have been a culture shock, moving right around the globe to go there.
Well, do you know, it all came about, and at that time it was all phone calls and letters. There was no email at that stage, you know what I mean? So it was pretty much prehistoric communication. But no, I ended up going out there, and I was petrified, if I'm honest. I flew all the way across the world, landed there, not knowing who was meeting me, or not knowing what I was really getting into. And I was homesick for the first 3 months. I just wanted to come home. I really did. I mean, it was the first time I'd ever been away from my family, from my town. First time I'd been abroad, really. So it was a tough one to start with. But as it grew and as I got used to it, it was a lot better. And I came actually very close in staying there. You know, we played some all-star games, you know, league select games and things out there, and there was talks maybe that the New Zealand FA at the time were maybe saying, well, if I stayed there, they could fast track so that you could become a New Zealander and everything else. And
oh, really?
stay there, yeah. So, but it was good. Again, that was their highest standard, you know, in their country. And
was that the top flight? Was it? Yeah.
It was their top flight. You flew to all the away games, well, the majority of away games, because there's obviously a North Island, South Island.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, previous to that, 5 of my teammates for the team I played for, North Shore United, played in the World Cup 2 years before that.
Wow.
And they're playing against Scotland, Spain, you know what I mean? So they were in that group. So 5 of my teammates had played against Scotland in the World Cup 2 years previous.
So you'd say it's an experience you enjoyed, but one you maybe just had to cut short because you were missing home a little bit?
Well, no, I was there for the season. I did my season. I finished the season off.
Oh, was it just a year?
Yeah,
a year contract.
Yeah, it was
okay,
just a year's contract. So I finished the season off, and in the end, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was really, really good, but I was glad to get home.
And then when you went back, did you go back to Nairn County in Scotland? I guess by that point though, you were probably trying to play at the
it was
time.
actually because Nairn had let me go in the first place.
Okay.
The agreement was if I came back home, I would sign for them.
Ah, right, okay.
So there was no ifs, buts or maybes about that. But I'd signed for Nairn, and quite quickly I'd scored a lot of goals, and I got offered a trial at Sunderland. And I went down to Sunderland, actually stayed down there a month, played in the reserve, scored some goals there, and thought I had a good chance of getting taken on because I'd done really well, but in their eyes not quite made it. So I ended up going back to Nairn County, and then probably a week, maybe 2 weeks later, I got this phone call out of the blue from Jerry Gow, who was the manager of Yeovil Town. And what had happened was there was a coach at Sunderland called Cecil Irwin, who used to manage Yeovil at one point, and he played for them, had seen me at Sunderland and recommended me to Jerry. So out of the blue, Jerry's phoned me and come down to Yeovil. I was like, fair enough. And that was because they were in the conference at the time, which was called the Gola League then. So I ended up headed down there, went on the train, headed down to Yeovil, and there was only 8 weeks or so left of the season, maybe 10 weeks of the season left. Went down, signed, played, scored goals, and at the end of that season I signed a 3-year contract with them.
Weird one, but like the standards that you've got. So you've gone from Nairn
Yeah.
to New Zealand. Now you've gone to the Yeovil.
Yeah.
What was the standard like and the step up?
That was a big step up. The one from Nairn County to Yeovil was a big step up, because at that time, I mean, Yeovil were probably the best supported non-league club in the country at that time. They were averaging about 2,500 gates, you know, so that was a big step. And in fact, an interesting story on that one, the player I replaced was Ian Botham.
Wow.
Ian Botham was the striker at that time for Yeovil.
Yeah,
That's his
did-
hometown, that's
he
where
did
his
both,
mum
didn't
that's
he?
where his mum and dad lived.
All right, okay.
And he was going on tour, wherever the cricket was, West
Yeah.
Indies or wherever it was, he was going away on tour somewhere, so he had played up to a point, and then like that's me done, off on tour, and I came in to replace him. I took the number 9 shirt off him. So I replaced big Ian Botham.
Do you reckon you're as good as him at cricket?
No.
Probably not. So Yeovil, I mean, it's not quite as far as New Zealand, John, but it's still a fair way
Yeah.
from where you're from. How did you find it moving all the way down there? Is it Somerset?
Down to Somerset, which wasn't, like you said, it wasn't so bad because my mum and dad were regular visitors. They came down to see us, and when I'd moved to Yeovil, I mean, within the first few weeks really, I'd met my wife in Yeovil, and in the 3 years that I was there, then 2 of my boys were born in Yeovil. You know, I got married in Yeovil. So, you know, and Jerry Gow, who was a fantastic player in his time, you know, he played for Bristol City, Manchester City, you know, good, a real good, he became a very good friend, and, you know, he was even further down the line in my career, he came back and he still was quite prominent in there, in some of the things he did for me.
How did you find English football at that time? What was it like in that period?
Well, it was still proper. I mean, the non-league game then was very physical. Pitches obviously weren't great, but it was good. I mean, it was proper football, you know. And as much as we were part-time, we were treated like full-time players, really, you know. So it was good. I mean, they were a good-sized club in non-league football. So it was again, it was that step up that was needed for me.
So obviously a good time at Yeovil, and then back to Scotland side for Elgin City.
Well, what had happened then, obviously Jerry had left, a new manager had come in, Brian Hall, and I'll be honest with you, me and Brian didn't see eye to eye, you know what I mean, we didn't really get on that well. And
Any stories that you could say on the podcast that...
yeah, I mean, just we didn't get on that well. He was
Personalities?
he was actually a policeman.
Ah.
Right, he was a policeman that lived in London. He managed Wealdstone before he came to Yeovil. Well, Wealdstone were a big club as well. You know, Wealdstone, Vinnie Jones, Stuart Pearce,
There's a
all
lot
these
of good
boys that
players
played,
come
you
from
know,
there, yeah.
through Wealdstone. So he had come through, and he was a little bit different, I suppose. And
in his methods or the way
Yeah,
he was
his
with the
methods.
players?
No, his methods. He changed the way we played. He didn't, and I'll be honest with you, it didn't really suit me.
Right.
You know, and that was it. And I knew my days were numbered with him. So, came to the agreement was if I'd stayed in England, they wanted money for me. If I went back to Scotland, I could go on a free. So that was the reason I ended up going back to Scotland. I went back and joined Elgin City.
Wasn't a bad move, John.
Yeah, he did well there, didn't you?
A bagsman.
Elgin City was fantastic for me. I think by the time, obviously we'd gone back in, by the time February came round and I left, I think I'd hit 32 goals by the time I'd left in February. So it was a good season for me. And obviously teams had started to take notice, and I know there was talk of different clubs and different teams and everything else. And it was Ian McNeil who made the jump really. His son was scouting for him up in Scotland. He lived in Aberdeen, but he was especially the Highland League. And Ian had been on, young Ian Junior had been on to Ian Senior and saying, "You got to go and sign him, you got to go and sign him." And what had happened was Jerry Gow by this time had got the Weymouth job. So Jerry had phoned me up and I went, "Yeah, no problem." So Jerry had put a bid in, £25,000, which was non-league, was a lot of money at that time, you know what I mean? So Jerry had got the job there. Jerry then was flying up. I went through to Inverness Airport, picked Jerry Gow up, took him back through to Elgin to do the deal. So Jerry's in my car and we're talking away, and from Inverness to Elgin. We gets back to Elgin, we go, as you go into the ground, I mean, it's not a massive big, it was a good sized stand, but not a big stadium. You walk into the ground and on your right was the secretary's office, straight ahead of you was the boardroom. So we're heading towards the boardroom and the secretary pops his head out the door and he goes, "John, can I have a quick word?" I went, "Aye, no problem." So Jerry carried on into the boardroom, and by this time he's got his briefcase, he's took all the papers out, transfer forms, he's got a banker's draft there for £25,000, and it was all laid out on the table all neat. Well, the secretary's pulled me in, and I've gone in, and he goes, "White's a sheet," and I thought something's wrong, I thought, what? He's pulled me in and he's gone, "McNeil's on the phone." And straight away I'm thinking, Billy McNeil, Celtic manager, you know what I mean?
Here we go.
And he went, "Ian McNeil, Shrewsbury." I went, "I don't even know where Shrewsbury is." Right, I haven't got a clue. No clue at all. And I went, "You have to phone him." There's his number, so the guy's left the office, left me there, phones him, picks the phone up. "Hello, Mr. McNeil." "Yeah, John McGinlay." He went, "John, right, I want to sign you." I went, "All right." He went, "Come down tomorrow, I want to sign you." I went, "Well, no disrespect, Miss I've got Jerry Gow here with a banker's draft. He's got the forms, he's going to sign me for Weymouth." And he goes, "Why would you go to Weymouth when you get an opportunity, league football?" I mean, it was a championship at the time, Shrewsbury.
Oh, really? Wow.
So, I mean, straight away, yeah, it makes sense. Do you know what I mean? But then I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, does he want me to go down to have a trial in the hope of maybe signing me, or is it done and dusted? And so I said to him, I said, "Look, I'm not coming down for a trial. I'm not coming. It's got to be a concrete deal." And
Now or
went,
never.
Now or never. He went, "Yeah, no problem, done. I want to sign you, dude. Come down tomorrow." I was like, "All right." So I said yes on the phone. Put the phone down. Now I've got to go in and see Jerry. Right? So walks into Jerry. Jerry's sitting at the head of this big long board table. And the directors are all sitting around the table, and I say, "Excuse me, gentlemen, can you give us a couple of minutes, just me and Jerry?" And I went, "Aye, no problem." Out we go. And Jerry's going, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" I went, "Jerry, I can't sign for you." He went, "Why?" I said, "I'm going to sign for Shrewsbury." And he went, No, come. And for about 2 minutes, you know what I mean, I went back and forth, and he said, "Come with me, and then you'll get a step." I said, "Look, I've got the step up." And in the end, he stood up, shook my hand, and he conceded, and he said, "Look, as long as I get first dibs, if it doesn't work out." So fair enough. So he stayed that night. We went out with a couple of drinks, me and Jerry. I ran him back to the airport next morning, and off he went back down to Weymouth. And I then, because I had a blue Ford Capri at that time, right? That probably I couldn't get to the shops and back without filling up with water. So it was one of them. Wait a minute, how am I going to get to Shrewsbury? So I had to drive down to Fort William to my mum's house to borrow her car. and to give her my 4 Capri. Right? And if you could picture this, my mum wasn't a big tall lady or anything else, right? She couldn't even see over the bump of the bonnet on the 4 Capri. She had to get like 3 cushions, you know, to sit on. And there's my mum. Have you ever seen anything so funny as my mum sitting in a 4 Capri, down dead low, with this big bump on the bonnet she couldn't even see over? But I had to borrow her car to get to Shrewsbury.
And what car was that?
A mini Metro. It was a good one. It was a mini Metro like GT thing. It was nice.
So
But
then Shrewsbury,
yeah,
like you say there, equivalent of what is the Championship now.
Championship, yeah.
So how did you find that then? Because that was a real break for you, really.
At that time, Leeds United, Man City, Chelsea, they were all in there. You know, so I mean, straight away, I think, goodness sake, what I've come from,
Yeah.
playing in front of 400 or 500 people, to all of a sudden, you go to Leeds and you're playing in front of 36,000. Do you know what I mean? It's like, goodness sake. I mean, it was. I was walking about with my mouth just wide open, you know, and it was and to see some of the players that straight away people you'd only ever seen on the TV. Do you know what I mean? And straight away you're playing against them, and it was like, wow. So played, scored a few goals in the first, you know, what games were left of the season. I sort of cemented myself in a starting slot in the team. And Ian McGinlay was fantastic to me, the manager. He really was. I mean, he was like a second dad to me. He was brilliant, and that's when I came across Tony Kelly for the first time.
Altogether
At Shrewsbury.
Shrewsbury.
So the first day I arrived there, you know what I mean, he gives out this story that I was like Rod Stewart, you know, come with the hair all spiked up, long hair, earrings in and all. I wasn't. I was in a kilt.
Is that what he says?
He tells all the story.
Typical
Typical Tony, you know what I mean? Why enhance a story, you know what I mean? But yeah, so that's where I first came across Tony at that time, and you know, obviously we've been great friends ever since.
Well, he said what he thought of you. What did you think of Kells?
Do you know?
I was just going to ask a similar question actually.
Right. Well, when I came across him, I looked at him, and he wasn't in the best physical shape for a footballer, if I'm honest with you, right? And he knows that himself. But I've never come across a better passer of the ball. And he controlled a game from the centre circle. Honestly.
Just popping passes off.
Always available. Pop it into him at any rate, you know what I mean? In fact, first touch, magnificent. But then, the vision, the passing, I mean, he put so many, honestly, 70-yard passes, you put them onto your chest and going through on goal. You know, creating stuff just, or down the slots, down the side of the centre backs and stuff like that. But the weight of the pass and things like that, his vision, he didn't even have to look, you know, he would play the ball into him and he would just ping a diagonal out on the left hand side, you know what I mean? And he was like he was just orchestrating everything, do you know what I mean, from that centre circle. And everybody, he was like a magnet. Everybody, wherever they got the ball, they always knew he was free. You know, and he just ran games from there.
He always had that 5 yards of space.
He was just clever, yeah. He made it himself, and don't get me wrong, he could be physical as well. But as a footballing brain, he was brilliant.
And at that time, pretty quickly, did you realise that he was the character that we know him as today?
Oh, that didn't take too long to work out, did it? But no, he's never changed on that side. Listen, Tony's Tony. He's always been front of the queue, unless it's going to the bar, and he's always at the back of the queue.
So then you moved to Bury in 1990,
Yeah.
and moved to the northwest. How was that?
Well, the Bury one came about where when I moved to Shrewsbury, I'd signed like an 18-month contract, and I think I'd done reasonably well, and probably looking to step up again. You know, in your own eyes, you're thinking as you're progressing, you're looking to step up.
Is this as the season's finished now?
The season's finished.
Yeah.
Yeah, and by this time, Asa Hartford's my manager.
Right.
Asa was player coach under Ian. Ian had finished, and Asa Hartford had got the job. So, I mean, they had offered me a good contract, you know, a new 2-year contract to stay there, but I think it's one of them whereas you just sort of test the waters, don't you, to see what's out there, or to see what's happening. And there was talk of a few clubs, and by this time, when Ian had left Shrewsbury, he had now gone to Millwall with Bruce Rioch as assistant manager. and I was supposed to go there.
Right.
They'd been in touch with me, and Millwall was the place that I was going to go. And out of the blue, phone call. I got called in to the club. Hayes Hartford called me in, and he said, Sam Ellis has been on the phone. I didn't know who Sam was at that time. He says he wants you to go through and speak to him, buddy manager. He went, just go through. Don't just discard it. Go through and have a chat with him and see what's on offer. Just see how you get on.
Yeah.
Whatever. I went, all right. So I went through. Sam came in, got to the ground, into his office. He went, right, what do you want?
You called me.
What are you looking? No, I don't mean that. How much money do you want? What are you looking for? What's your package? What do you want?
Really?
Like that, right? There wasn't even any an intro,
That
really.
changes-
It was
that
a case of
changes things
just,
a bit,
what do you
doesn't
want? And I went, well, no, it wasn't that. And I wasn't prepared for that, because I thought he was going to do it. Oh, how you doing? What's your plans?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Taking it slowly.
Yeah.
He went, but right, what do you want? I went, and I was no agent, nothing else. So anyway, I just gave him a figure. I probably should have asked for more now, thinking back on it. But I gave him a figure, everything else, and he went, all right. He got up, shoot my hands out, he goes, I'll be back in touch within 24 hours. Right? I went, all right. So then I was kind of ushered out the office. I'd spent a total of 5 minutes there. Right? So my brother had drove me up as well, so we got back in the car and he's driving me back to Shrewsbury. I arrived back in Shrewsbury and he had been on the phone, he had left a message, he'd been on the phone, sent me, come back up the next day. So anyway, drove back up the next day, walked in, and it was there. And he had all the forms, everything was all done, right, in his eyes. I hadn't even spoke to him about anything. I hadn't spoken about the football side of things, I hadn't spoken about anything.
More of a business transaction than a football transfer.
Well, listen, the big man, he was very persuasive, let's say. No, he was just assuming, you know. But anyway, I was there, and I was like, I signed it. And I don't know, but I came out, and we're driving back to Shrewsbury, and I think, I don't know what I've just done. You know what I mean? I hadn't taken long enough to...
You're not taking the
to
club
register.
and
asked
any questions
No,
of your own.
not at all.
Just
So that was it.
What was the backlash like from Millwall then, if you were expected to sign?
Well,
because obviously you went on to play, so...
Yeah, well, it wasn't too good initially, because I know the boss, like, Ian had been on the phone saying, what have you done? Why did you do that? And I was like, oh. Do you know what I mean? It was one of them, but, I mean, I know the boss wasn't happy. But, cut a long story short, we started the season at Bury. Things are going reasonably well to start with. And they had an investor at that time who was putting a lot of money into the football club. But if I say, from the day I walked in to towards the end, which we're only talking about 6 months later, when I walked in, they had money, they had, things were going well in the football club on the face of it. But the day, or towards the end, when you couldn't get a pair of laces out of the place. It turned so badly, and in the end, they had to, before the transfer deadline day, the old transfer deadline day, they had to sell 6 players just to stay in business, or else they were going to go bust.
Wow.
So it was a pretty short-lived spell, very really, because of factors that were out of your control.
Well, the other thing was, back in them days, the contract they had given me, I think once I hit 10 goals, I was due a bonus. And it's no secret, I was on 9 and they would play me again.
So you do hear stories about that even till this day.
They wouldn't play me again because they couldn't take the risk of me scoring a goal. So that was it. Once I got to 9 goals, that was me done.
Well, you said that about the investor and how you said, what do you want?
Yeah.
And he said he gave you the contract that you'd probably given a number and you could have gone higher.
Yeah.
Once that money's gone, I'm guessing he's done that to 4, 5, like you said, they had to sell 6 players.
Well, they had obviously thrown everything at promotion, trying to get promotion, and they were in the shake-up before this unravelled.
What division was that in?
League One.
To get into the
championship.
Yeah.
So, but when it unravelled very quickly. I think, as we know, in recent history here, what's happened. But I think when you do look at it, to sell, I mean, it was extreme to sell 6 of us. When I go through the 6, David Lee left for Southampton, I think for about 200, maybe 300,000, something like that. Andy Hill, who was a great right back at the time, we went to Man City. Bolton signed Tony Cunningham and Matt Patterson. I went to Millwall. I forget who the other one was, but there were 6 anyway that had to sell.
You're losing your starting lineup there now.
Well, a lot of experience there,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of good players there, and yeah, devastated them because they'd gone from the verge of promotion, obviously, to just being an average side.
But during your time at Bury, I'm informed that you scored a hat-trick at Burnden, so that's obviously the first glimpse of Bolton that Bolton fans will have got of obviously the future striker.
The hat-trick that you want to forget, really, yeah. I mean, it does. I mean, I think some tongue-in-cheek, I think some people mention it sometimes and saying, yeah, you know, that was the first time they'd seen us. But I think, you know, more so for David Lee. You know, David Lee, when he played for Bury, terrorised Bolton for a few years. He really did. So David was always the one that was a sort of a thorn in Bolton's side. You know, so I think, you know, and it's funny how how paths are taken, because, you know, I've gone to Millwall, David's gone to Southampton, yet I then signed for Bolton the following season, and David was like 3 weeks behind me.
It's mad, isn't it?
You know, so it just shows you that, you know,
People are always watching.
well, not just always watching. I think, you know, that at that time we weren't as bad as a position as we're in now financially, but money was really tight. You know, and it took time. I mean, when the boss and Ian McNeil had been in touch, when the boss had left Bolton and came here, left Millwall and came here, I'd been speaking to them, and I was meant to come at the end. You know, when it took them until the 30th of September to raise the money. So it was always about just, you know, raising the money to get there, and but the boss, I think that some of the recruitment was fantastic because money couldn't be wasted. You know, and the players that they brought in, and it was bit by bit, similar to what we have to do now as a club, is to build it, there's blocks into it. And I think then, you know what I mean, that was, when looking back on it, September the 30th, 1992, that was the day I signed here.
Obviously you signed from Millwall. We've not touched on your time at Millwall so much. What was it like down there? I mean, obviously we spoke to a teammate of yours there and here, Keith Brannigan,
Yep.
about the fans down there at what is now the old Den.
Yeah.
What was it like?
Oh, they were a tough crowd. They were, do you know, going well, fantastic. I mean, they were intimidating. If you weren't doing well as a team, they were as bad to you as they were the away team. You know, they were really... They were very expectant. The expectation levels were there, you know. But for me personally, I mean, I think that was the time where... That was my first time working under Bruce. So the boss took me in, gave me discipline that I didn't have before, put me on the right track, and that was the first time really I had acted probably as a professional properly, if I'm telling the truth. You know, because he was good for me. He was really good for me, and not just him, actual players that I learnt off. You know, when I went to Millwall, Teddy Sheringham was the main striker, and he was unbelievable. You know, he is. When I saw what he did in training, and not just in training, afterwards, going out on his own and working on stuff, and you could see, you know, his first touch is fantastic. His finishing, his volleys, how clean he striked the ball. You know, things like, you're just watching him. And what happened was, you know, people started to go out doing extras themselves as well. So it was infectious, and it spread. You know, but I think for me, that was a big turning point for me.
A competition aspect as well, because obviously striker, your position, vying for places.
Well, you going at that time, Matt Falco, Tottenham Hotspur, England striker, Terry Sheringham, Malcolm Allen, Newcastle, Wales, great striker. A couple of young strikers, and John Goodman was coming through. He was doing really well, and Chris Armstrong, who played for England as well, was a striker there, who went on to play for Tottenham, etc. So the striking positions there were, I mean, it was really,
Like
really
gold dust.
competitive. I mean, if you did get a shirt and you got in the team, you had to perform or else you were out, because you knew somebody was itching at the bit to get in, you know. So it was good, and the boss again was good with me, and again that was what was needed at the time for me.
Were teams set up to sort of go about things in an intimidating way at Millwall, or was it, did Bruce Rioch just sort of implement his own tactics and things, or was sort of an expectation from the fans of the way that the team was supposed to play?
The expectations were, I mean, I think everybody knows, it's no secret, Millwall as a support are quite rough and ready. Again, you know, most of them are historically Dockers and everything else, South East London. And I think the motto is, and not too different from here, the motto is, you know, a working class club that work hard, they pay good money to come to a game, and they expect to see their players rolling their sleeves up and putting a shift in. And, you know, Bruce has gone in with his style of play, added to the physical side as well, and it was well received.
And then obviously you moved to Bolton.
Yeah.
Did you come to Bolton before Bruce, or did Bruce fetch
No,
you?
Bruce
Fetch you up here, yeah.
Bruce brought me. When Bruce left, Bruce came here with Ian, and again, so they were in touch in the summer, and again, it took them all summer and into September to raise the money, and it wasn't a great deal of money, but at that time, like I said, things were tight at the club. Every penny was counted for, and but I'd been waiting. Truth be known, bag was packed in the car, ready for that phone call, and I was gone, you know, and that was the case, you know. And in fact, when I did get the call and I drove up to Bolton, they put me in the Pack Horse, which was an hotel in the middle of the town. Went to the club the next morning, went in, and the boss, and I'd gone in to see him. It was great to see him again and everything else. I took quite a considerable pay cut to come to Bolton, and I lost my club car as well. So there was different things in there, but the boss was brilliant. He said, "Look, you trust me, don't you?" I said, 100%, of course I do. Sign that, and we'll get it sorted as we go. Well, that's why I didn't even look at it. I didn't even know, at that time I didn't even look at it, and that is God's honest truth. And didn't know what I was getting, but I had my full trust in him.
Was he the main thing? Obviously you said that you had the full trust, but was it also the opportunity to be playing every week? You said, right, you're going to be my man, because of the amount of sort of, because you said how tight the money was, and how much they've invested into you. They're like, right, you are our guy.
Well, no, because I think you're still coming into an environment whereas you've got to earn your place, haven't you? There's no place guaranteed. There's no place guaranteed at any football club, or shouldn't be. But having worked for Bruce and having seen the way he worked and the way he played, I knew it suited me. The opportunity to come to the club, which I had played for Shrewsbury against at the old Burnden Park, and I know that it sounds a bit cheesy, but it's not really. After the game, I'm getting on the bus, and we're waiting on the bus leaving, and Davy Moyes was my teammate at Shrewsbury, and I said to Davy at the time, I said, "I'd like to play here, you know." There was just a feel about the place, and there was an aura about the place. You know, we were traditional ground, there was a decent crowd, but it was a proper football club. So, again, when Bruce had come here and I'd got the opportunity, I didn't even have to think about it. You know, it wasn't about money, it wasn't about anything else, it was about the football club and about Bruce.
What was it like, Burnden Park? Obviously myself and Mikey not had the opportunity to go.
Well, early on, obviously, the club weren't in the best state when we first came in, but it grew. You know, I think they were averaging about 5,500, 6,000 when we first came in. But getting towards the end of that season, it was a full house. You know, 21,000, 21,500, and the place is rocking. I mean, honestly.
Proper old-fashioned football
proper
ground,
old-fashioned ground, you know, where you're like that,
Yeah.
and if somebody moves, you've got to move the same way.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But the atmosphere, you know, and especially a midweek game under the lights, a cup game or whatever, phenomenal. And as the club grew, as the results got better, the atmosphere, the town grew. The town was buzzing. At that time, I mean, the place was jumping. You know, people just couldn't get enough of the football club. And, you know, in many respects, you know, and I know a lot of people now keep, you know, why do we hark back to the old days? Why do we talk about the white hot nights? Why do we do this? Why? Well, it's because it's what keeps us going. You know, in the circumstances where we've been as a football club recently, that's what keeps us going, because we turned it round then. We had bad days then, we were in League Two then, we were nearly going out of business then, but we turned it round.
So it'll happen again.
And it's a cycle.
Yeah,
you know, you have
exactly.
your good times, you have your
That's what
bad
it's about.
times. And, you know, we've had some horrendous times recently, but I think that's what keeps us going. When we look back and see what we achieved then, we can do it again.
I agree.
No question.
Completely agree. And obviously, not long after signing for Bolton, it was pretty successful time for the club, sort of in the first year really. Was it promotion in the first season to what is now the Championship?
Well, we came in and, you know, the boss had to juggle things about, because there had two strikers at this football club that were very successful at that time, David Reeves and Tony Philliskirk. And they had a great partnership, and they had scored buckets of goals at this level, you know, and were very well thought of by the supporters and the town and everything else of the football club. And, you know, it was probably a tough decision for the boss to sort of break that partnership up. But Andy Walker was here on loan at the time, and bringing myself in, and myself and Andy seemed to click straight away. You know, so we were very fortunate that we didn't have to work at it, it just happened. You know, we both worked hard for each other, and the team, you know, the team supplying chances for us and everything else, putting them on our plates, but, you know, it was a proper team effort in the dressing room. We all went out together, we socialised together, proper team.
Why did that partnership click? Because it was some partnership, wasn't it?
Yeah. I just think we complemented each other, really. You know, I think Andy was the guy that would probably drop a little bit shorter at times, link with the midfield, bring people into play. I was that second ball in behind. I was probably the physical side of the partnership. But if he scored, or I scored, or we both scored in the same game, it was either or. It didn't make any difference to us. We were both happy for the other one to score, if that makes sense. You know, because we created a lot of things amongst ourselves, but when you've got people like David Lee on one side, Mark Patterson on the other wing, or Alan Thompson later on in the other wing, and firing crosses in, it wasn't such a worry if you missed a chance, because you knew you would get one, you know, 3 or 4 minutes later, maybe earlier, but just a total team effort.
What was it like, sort of being in the change room at that time? Because obviously we've seen firsthand your relationship with Tony Kelly,
Yeah.
that you can sort of see. You look at you both and you can kind of just see sort of two footballers and the relationship that two teammates have.
Yeah.
And I imagine there was a lot more of those sort of relationships in that dressing room.
Do you know what, and again, you think back, and I think the longer, especially now you're finished playing, you miss these guys. And we don't see enough of each other. And we bump into each other every now and then, or if there's a function that people are invited to, a dinner or whatever, you bump into them, or you might bump into them at a game. But you're so glad to see each other. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, you do genuinely miss them.
Reignites memories as well.
And because everybody, you know, football's it's a tough sport really, because a lot of people then maybe retire and go back home to where they came from, and so people are really split up. And there's only certain few that have stayed in the town. Obviously, myself and Tony have got a really close relationship, as David as well, David Lee as well. The three of us, I think it was, everybody calls us the three amigos, you know what I mean? Because everything, the charity stuff and everything else we do, we pretty much do it together, you know. But the guys in the dressing room then, it was a joy to be in. You know, there's not many jobs where you can genuinely say, you can't wait to get in the next morning. To hear the stories, hear what went on, to hear what's going on, you know what I mean? And the banter was unbelievable. And I know, listen,
it's a big thing, that, isn't it?
It is, because that togetherness,
yeah.
it brings everybody
Yeah.
together, you know. We went to the horse racing, we played golf, whatever we did, we all did it together, we all went. You know what I mean? There's no point in going out in 3s and 4s and, you know, I'll do this, you do that. And no, we did everything together. You know, and Phil Brown was the captain at the time. Phil Brown was a huge part of that, you know, because he made sure that everybody did it. You know, everybody was there. You know, you weren't allowed to not be there, and that has to be the way. You're in it together, because when you're 2-0 down in a game, people is going to dig you out. People's going to help you when you're together.
Yeah, so it's only really determination, team spirit that's going to get you a result in that game of 2-0 down, isn't it?
And we did that many, many times.
Yeah.
When we were down and out, and people thought we were down and out, we came back and we got a result, or we got something out of the game. And it was simply because we didn't want to let each other down.
You talk about the dressing room, and you said that like Phil Brown there would be, so you could say like a dressing room general.
Yeah.
Did you have like groups of people who like you knew right they're going to run the dressing room some days, or like say the bits of banter going around? You had your characters there for sure.
Experience was in the dressing room, and I think the boss and latterly Colin Todd were quite cute as well, because they always seemed to give us a couple of minutes, say at half time, and we would sort our own problems out at times. And don't get me wrong, no, it was one of them where you could never take it personal, but there was times where people were, you had to get people by the scruff of the neck and to have a word, and you know, to shake them a little bit. But it needs doing. But nobody ever took it to the extent where it was a personal thing. It was just that week.
Body, yeah.
Because it might be me this week that's struggling. I need everybody's help to get me out of that, and somebody else next week.
Absolutely.
You know, so if everybody gets round and helps each other, that person next week that's struggling will get helped as well.
Yeah.
And the big thing, and it's even in today's modern football, you might go out there and your touch might be off. You might, for some reason, not feel right that day, or you can't get into the game, or the game just seems to bypass you. That's fine. But there's no excuse for not giving 100% work rate. There's no excuse for not at least occupying another player. And that's how you get respect from your teammates, because they know you're not having a good day, but you're still putting a shift in.
Yeah, it's a minimum requirement, isn't it?
Exactly.
Really? Even if things aren't going your way, you put a shift in. And
There's no skill required for that.
No, that's it. The fans are stood up clapping big tackles and stuff like that, and things where just a bit of work rate's required.
Do you know what? In games when they're tight and when they're like that, a tackle makes all the difference, because it gets, as you say, it gets the fans then involved in the game.
Yeah.
They've had nothing to cheer about. That tackle now changes the course of the game. It changes the whole atmosphere in the dressing room. You know, it might be a pass, might be somebody winning a header, winning an aerial challenge.
And pretty soon in your time with Bolton, the White Hot Night.
Yeah.
So we'll obviously have a chat about that. What are your sort of memories that stick with you from that night?
Well, personally,
Some night.
well, it was an unbelievable night. Yeah, probably the best night of my life, actually, that one. For many different aspects. You look at it, we'd been struggling for a long time as a football club. That night put us back on the map, in my eyes, because we got national exposure. We were the only game really that night. It was an FA Cup replay, obviously, and you know, the first game at Bundon Park, we were 2-0 up against Liverpool. They came back in the second half, scored 2 goals, 2-2. Famously, Graham Souness gets interviewed on the touchline at Bundon Park. He had this big black fur coat on, you know what I mean? And he said, that's the hard work done, we're getting back to Anfield now, we'll put things right. So
Mistake.
that was like a red rag to a bull,
Yeah.
to be honest with you, and the boss used that. But for me personally, I mean, I grew up, Kenny Dalglish was my idol. He was my king, he was everything. I mean, he still is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Dalglish, because of that, Liverpool were always my English team. You know what I mean? My favourite English team because of him. So to actually walk into Anfield, first thing, go and touch the sign. Then into the dressing room, and we were all the same, because I mean, you think about it, League One players going to Anfield, who are the reigning champions, are the cup holders. So you're going in there, and in the dressing room, you go and walk on Anfield, you look round the place, and it just looks massive. Do you know what I mean? And the boss, everybody's running about, it's excited, we're all doing this, that and the other, you know what I mean? And I'm thinking, right, I need to get something as a memento, so I'm trying to nick a coat hanger or something, or something out of the dressing room, do you know what I mean? Just for something to have that I can say I've been, because I'll never come back here.
I don't really blame you.
Do you know what I mean? I'm thinking to myself, I'll never come back here, so I've got to get something to say. At least I played there, and there you go, look, that's the coat hanger up, I haven't got a shirt on, whatever. And I think the boss let us run about for about 10 minutes or so, and then bang, right, sit down.
Business time.
Business time, and that was it. And the boss had, I hope he doesn't watch this, but the boss had this way, right, and you always knew when you pushed him far enough, or when he was about to explode, he would move his neck like that, right, and once he did that, it was like, don't get any eye contact. He was looking at the floor, don't get any eye contact. Do you know what I mean? So once you see him do that, it was like sit up now, sit up straight, and that was it. So, and that was the end of the, you have your 10 minutes, and I sit down, right, here we go, bang, that was it. And then from then on in, it was focus.
Must have been special to score as well. Obviously, an unbelievable assist, I might add, by your mate David Lee.
Some ball.
Yeah.
Do you know that night?
Well.
That night, I mean, single-handedly, I know myself and Andy scored the goals, right, and to many, probably it looks like me and Andy get the headlines because we scored this, that and the other. But David Lee that night was unplayable. Totally unplayable. That's the best live performance I've seen of a player over 90 minutes. He was just sensational. And at that time they had the England right back, Rob Jones. They had, I can't remember the other player they had, a full back. He absolutely shredded the two of them. And they kept changing them over. And, chance after chance. I mean, for himself as well. I mean, a little bit, if he had been a little bit probably level-headed in the box now, you'd have probably got 2 or 3 goals himself that night. But the opportunities he was creating, and he was just causing them havoc every time he got the ball. And of course, Tony didn't even need to look. Every time Tony got the ball, David Lee.
He was the one who gave it David Lee, wasn't he?
Feed him all the time. And he was just putting it down David Lee's neck all the time, and David Lee would then go and beat 4 or 5 players. That was it. But 9,500 Bolton fans there that night. The atmosphere was absolutely, I mean, the place was just lifting the roof off, My mum and dad were there. That was an added bonus. A lot of my family were there. It was like a dream come true. And the second goal goes in, Andy's great header, finishes the game off, kills it. Final whistle goes, of course we're all down behind the goal celebrating with our fans, and everybody's there, and it's just absolutely phenomenal. We're probably there for a couple of minutes, and then all of a sudden somebody tapped into the shoulder, turned round, the whole of the cop's still there. They hadn't moved, they stayed. Honest to God, the whole of the cop has stayed. Wow. Normally they're all gone, isn't it? Lower league teams beat them, off they go. It's like, sack the manager, it's embarrassing and everything else. Do you know what I mean? They stayed. The whole cop would stay, I swear to you, they stayed. So we turned round, from our fans, we started walking back towards the halfway line, and they started applauding us.
Wow. And
even, honestly, when the hair's back of my neck standing up now, because it's like, that, to me, that was just the icing on the cake.
Ultimate recognition of your performance.
Ultimate recognition and respect. For them to stay and clap us and applaud us in the way we played, because most lower league sides would go there and physically try to probably kick them off the park, and try to say, right, stop them playing. That never ever came into it with Bruce. Bruce had our way of playing, and that was it.
Football versus
and it was passing move, passing move, passing move. And when you look at the players in their team, John Barnes, Rush, etc., all good football players, Jamie Redknapp, a young boy at the time, but a hell of a player. Now, pass and move, that was Bruce. No worry about this, worry about that, because they're the bigger team, they're the more established, better players, everything else. No, you play your football. This is the way we play. But in the manner we played, in that game and everything, but to see the cop applaud us off the park is just phenomenal.
Forever live in your memory.
Mike Marsh was the fullback that David Lee terrorised.
Mike Marsh pulled the shorts off David Lee at one point. See, at one point he was standing in his underpants in the middle of the park because Mike Marsh had a handful of his shorts as he's ran past them.
Apologies to you.
Good
Mark.
quick Googling there, Mikey.
No problem, mate.
So you mentioned about the Liverpool fans giving you credit, the people who were in the Kop that night. Were there any of sort of their players or staff that came in and sort of commended you?
We got on the bus. Their players were quickly off the park, by the way. Souness was raging. I mean, he was raging at the time. I mean, he was painting the walls with them. Because as we walked into the dressing room after we had done all our bits, you could hear him in there. I mean, he was going berserk. And later on after that, as we've got on the bus, people were popping in. I remember Bruce Grobbelaar had popped. He said, "Boys, brilliant, well done." Applauded us and everyone else. Congratulations. Yeah, their players were complimentary towards us.
I bet Tony Kelly was pleased that night, because he's an Evertonian, isn't he?
Do you know, it was Tony, probably Alan Stubbs as a young boy, playing there, McAteer as a young boy there, involved in the squad as well. These boys, because they were Scousers, it obviously means more to them, you know.
Of course.
I mean, Tony, forgive me, you'll probably forgive me for saying it, and Alan Stubbs, both were Everton supporters growing up. So I think it was a little bit special for them to, and Tony got released from Liverpool as well. So going back,
Of course he did, yeah.
and sort of proving a point,
Yeah.
to a certain extent, but going back and probably to himself,
Yeah.
proving a point to himself and
Yeah.
saying, well, you know, I mean, yeah, I am good
I
enough.
can play against
I can
these
play.
boys, yeah. What was it like then, working under Bruce Rioch in general? No, we'll keep talking about your time at Bolton,
Yeah.
your time under Bruce, but what was it like? Why was he different to other managers that you've
A
worked
common
with?
theme we hear is that he's a disciplinarian.
Yeah, we've heard
He
that
will-
from Kells, haven't we?
Yeah, that he will. If you need the time off, he'll give it you.
Yep.
But you better work your arse off
Yep.
for him.
Very family orientated. Like you said, if anything to do with family needed anything or whatever, yep, without doubt. Strict to a point where, listen, footballers always try to take shortcuts. They always try to probably have a laugh, maybe when they shouldn't or whatever. You knew when you could have a laugh at the right time with the boss, and you knew when you couldn't, and that's not a bad thing, you know, because at the end of the day, it's all about winning football matches and trying to get as much success for the football club as you can, and that's what the supporters feed off. But he was also a very clever man, and also loved this football club. You know, you go back to when we had these cup runs, you know, when you think about the FA Cup in January and everything else, you know, when the ice snows about and everything, we had supporters that were, I'm not kidding you, the queues were like half a mile long outside the ground waiting for tickets for these FA Cup games because they didn't want to miss it. Do you know what I mean? And so after we finished training, we'd come back, the boss, right, get in there. You'd see them all standing out in the snow. They're out in the snow and the ice, raining, sleet, everything. We'd come in from training, don't get changed, don't get showered, get in there, find every big teapot you can find and make tea and get out to your supporters. So we were all in there, cups, big tea, but you know, all the stuff, making big pots of tea and everything else, and got out and serve them to all the people who were waiting in the queues. And it's probably long after you think, hey, we did that. Yeah, but you think about it, that's what brought us all together. Because as supporters out there, standing in all weathers to buy tickets to see us and not wanting to miss the games, so they had to make sure they were in the queue, we're out giving them hot drinks, looking after them.
Absolutely.
It's
yeah.
there. Do you know? And
Togetherness.
Togetherness. It goes both ways. It's not just coming, them handing their money over, getting a ticket and being at the game and cheering. They're actually seeing something back from the players.
Of course, yeah. I mean, in a working class town like Bolton, you know, there's tons of towns and cities you can name where, you know, that's so important. That's such an important dynamic.
Well, again, and no big time Charlies in the dressing room, because they wouldn't be allowed. If you came into that dressing room as a big time Charlie, you wouldn't walk out as one. Simple as. You wouldn't last 5 minutes. It was a togetherness, and do you know, the boss, obviously, in them days, the manager ran the football club from top to bottom, no doubt. The tea lady, to the cleaner, to the kit man, whoever, to the players, all get treated the same. All get treated the same, no question. Speak to them like you'd like to be spoken to, and treat them like you'd like to be treated. And that was the motto within the club.
Love that. Liverpool, spoke about Whitehall, 94, 95,
Yep.
the League Cup final,
Yep.
coming up against them again. Obviously the result didn't go our way
No.
on that day, but how was that?
Another big occasion, because obviously going to Wembley for the first time. I'd been there watching Scotland-England games, but that's the only time I'd been there. So obviously to go there as a player it was something different. And it was an occasion that sort of just flew by. You know what I mean? It was, a lot of it's a blur. Now, like the build-up and things like that, I can't remember half of it. Because it just seemed to be, just fly past. But the game itself, we did okay. You know, when Alan Thompson scores an unbelievable volley, I mean, it's a
That's sublime, that. We watched that recently in the archives.
But also David James pulls off a save before he scores, I think. You know, a fingertip, top corner job just over the bar. You know, if that goes in, it's a different game.
There's also another one, I think, where he's not actually looking at plays trying to come back, and he's managed to hit it off his back, and it's gone
out for a corner.
Yeah.
So we had opportunities. In the end, the difference between the two teams was Steve McManaman on the day. He was exceptional. I mean, he tore Scott Green inside out for 45 minutes in the first half, and culminating in Goodney Bergson coming on at half time for his debut for the club.
No pressure.
No pressure, no, you're not wrong there, but I mean, Goodney did well. He sort of stifled McManaman for the rest of the game, but McManaman for that first 45 minutes was just out of this world, and he was the difference in winning the game.
But then obviously the season ended the way we wanted it to end. The win against Reading, I mean, that is an unbelievable game, that, isn't it?
Well, a couple of months later, we've gone back to Wembley for the playoff final against Reading, and looking back on it now, probably that cup final against Liverpool stood us in good stead.
Yeah, like a dress
because
rehearsal.
If we had gone there in the Reading game for the first time, we might have been overawed. We might have been, we might have froze. In fact, we did freeze. We froze for the first half an hour, but that's a different story. So no, I think that stood us in good stead. And going back to Reading, they've come out the traps like Brazil.
Keith Brannigan said exactly the same thing, didn't he?
We could not get near them. Honest, for all the will in the world, their one-touch play, it was like pop, 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 and we were on the way in to close somebody down and already bumped it off and they were gone. And honestly, it wasn't what they wanted trying, it wasn't for any other reason, they were just brilliant. And we could not get within a yard of them. And some of their play was just outstanding. Now, obviously they've gone 2-0 up, and didn't matter what we tried, nothing was coming off for us, just nothing whatsoever was coming off for us. We couldn't string two passes together, if we're honest. And then obviously they get a penalty. McAteer's tracking back, I think, and he's took the boy up and he's given a penalty, and I thought, here we go. Now 2-0, get a goal back, you're back in the game. You've got
pressure's on them almost.
3-0, done.
We
may as well go home, you know. So they get the penalty, and Keith, unbelievable. And I mean, as a shot stopper, phenomenal. Best goalkeeper I've ever worked with. Overall, best goalkeeper. And as a person and everything else that goes with it. But him saving that penalty gave us the lift and actually turned the game. Because they are now deflated. Although 2-0 up, they're deflated because they've lost the penalty. Knowing that the third goal kills the game.
Yeah.
So in their heads now, they've lost that opportunity.
Fans are right behind you as well.
Fans now, when Keith saved that, right, now our fans have got a lift. So the flags are up, everybody's going daft, fine. We've now got in the game, we've now started to get forward, we've now started to get our passes off and keep a little bit of possession. And as soon as we know it, half-time whistle. So I've gone to the boys, right, sprint off the pitch. Sprint off. So we've all sprinted off the pitch, down the driveway, because there used to be a big driveway down, in the dressing room, gone in, and everybody's gone daft. Because we know we've got 2 or 3 minutes before the Boston that comes in. So it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You're going to get close to him, you're going to get attacked, you're going to keep the ball, you're going to keep giving it away, do you know what I mean? So we're all going round, and that's it. So then the boss comes in, right, and by this time we're all sat back down, door opens, maybe sitting up straight, looking right, boss comes in. Expecting to wipe the walls with us, you know what I mean? No, dead cool, comes in, goes 2-0 down, you've got 45 minutes to put it right. You've worked so hard this season, the football you've played this season has been phenomenal, you've done everything more than expected this season. Are we going to throw it away? You know what I mean? Or are we really going to go out there the second half impose ourselves on the game and do what we should be doing. And he was dead cool and clear, and it was like, you know what I mean, we were all expecting to get the worst, the hairdryer treatment, and we didn't, and it was great. So back out second half, and that was it. We got ourselves back in the game. We know Coyle scored a fantastic header at the back post to get us 2-1. And then Fabian breaks through, you know what I mean, with the ball, and he's finished it right, and I could have stayed in the stanchion. It's a great finish, 2-2. And we knew then we had it. At 2-2 we knew we had it. Because we were on the ascendancy and they were dipping.
It's like you've got the second wind.
We've got, well, they're just now deflated and so disappointed they couldn't hang on.
Chance, didn't they?
And they missed the penalty. They couldn't hang on to the 90 minutes and get the game over. We're now on top. And then we've ran riot in overtime, in extra time we've ran riot. Finished the game, and then even then Jimmy Quinn takes himself off the bench. What a goal he scored. I mean, it's never mentioned. It's a bull. I mean, it must win about 150 mile an hour. Brandy, I tell you, Brandy's went. Never even saw it.
Manager, wasn't he?
Never saw it. Right. I mean, it was such a clean hit. Top. You couldn't get any further into the top corner, but that was the last kick of the game essentially. You know, so we've come off there, and do you know that day? I think there's an interview that's on YouTube or something somewhere where Dave Higson's on the park, myself and Owen Coyle's there with Sir Nat, and Sir Nat was crying. You know what I mean? He was like, do you know what? You've never seen a man so happy as to when this football club, when it was doing well. Sir Nat's face was beaming. Do you know what I mean? And like, he's there and just enjoying it, and then you could see he's just happiest man in the world, you know what I mean? He's giving us big kisses in the cheek and all that when we're on the park, you know. No,
was he a person who was fantastic to have around the club? I mean, he is Mr. Bolton Wanderers, there's no denying that, but to have around the club at that time must have, if you talk about the dressing room, never got out of line, but he would have been there, I imagine.
Mikey, I'm not kidding you. Do you know, for a man that did so much, he was so humble, right? Never spoke about himself, never mentioned himself, no. He always came across like he was more interested in you, and he was genuinely, you know what I mean? Could he help you? And you could speak to many players. He was always there. You saw him every day, and it was a case of, if you were having a hard time, he'd put the arm around you and take you for a little walk around the pitch, and he would say, come on, cocker, you know, just keep going, keep the things will come right, don't be worried. You know, if you hadn't been scoring or whatever, you know what I mean, you would say, come on, just keep doing what you're doing, keep doing it, you don't mind, keep doing it. He was just unbelievable, and I think as a focal point for the football club, he was, and always will be, not just was, always will be. You know what I mean? There's only one. I mean, people talk about legends, they talk about this and they talk about that. We've got one legend, and that's him. The rest of us have all done a good job to a certain extent, and everyone else, right? But he's the man. He's the focal point of this football club, and always will be. But he was such a gentleman, you know, a humble man that just wanted Bolton Wanderers Football Club to do well. And he's like,
first promotion to the Premier League. He must have been buzzing with that. I mean, everyone must have been buzzing with that. The town, the players, the manager, everybody. It must have been some day that.
It was, and
some party.
And some parties were phenomenal. I mean, they went on for a long time, but do you know, looking back on, we probably weren't ready for it.
And did we lose Bruce?
Lost Bruce. Yeah, we lost Bruce after the playoff final.
Yeah, to Arsenal.
And went to Arsenal. Initially, we had Colin Todd and Roy McFarlane as joint managers, and in my own personal opinion, it never worked. You know, Roy was a lovely man. He was a real good man. Colin, the same. They both were ex-teammates, played with each other at Derby County and everything else. So they obviously got on well together. But there was a thing, you know. I think you need a defining number one. It's difficult because I was club captain at that time, and players would come to me and say, "Oh, who do we go and speak to?" Because if you went to one, it looked like you're undermining the other one, or the other one, it looks, well, why is he going to him? Do you know what I mean? And who'd you go to?
Them two didn't know who was the...
No, there was no one making that final decision.
Yeah.
So, again, as club captain, you were like, well, who did I go to? And I was like, well,
You were getting asked questions and you didn't know the answer to it, really.
no. And the thing being, I think we were both put in a bad position. Now, looking back on it now, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but looking back on it now, you would say, Colin, I think, obviously took over, I think it was in January maybe. Roy lost his job in January. They decided to go with Colin. And there on in, Colin did a good job. So probably the question that you would ask is why probably Colin didn't get it initially from the word go. And it would have saved all the doubt, really.
Mm.
But I think that first season, we went out and we lined up in a 4-5-1 formation. I played wide right for the whole season of a 5, and it was basically we just gave teams too much respect, because we were on the back foot
from the minute go. We were on the back foot, and don't get me wrong, we still had some good results here, there, and but they were sporadic. It wasn't really a good run, a consistent run. Not enough.
And is that where him and Bruce were different in terms of Colin and Bruce? So Bruce would, like with the Liverpool game, for example, he had his way of playing, and I'm not going to show them respect.
Too much about the other teams.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, but again, I think it's different. It's okay when you're maybe the number 2, but when you're the number 1, you're the one that then carries the can. You've got to make the decisions. And I probably feel that Colin felt we probably weren't quite good enough, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you take that back step, don't you? And to try and shore things up rather than be on the front foot.
Yeah.
And we did it in certain games where we went on the front foot, but overall, I just think it was probably a bit too soon for us.
Just we'd be remiss if we didn't ask about your relationship with Wolverhampton Wanderers, John.
Yeah.
What was it like, especially the semi-final games, the second leg? But what was it like? You always got up for them games, didn't you? What was it about Wolves that just, I don't know, made you play better?
Speaking about this the other day, weren't we?
Well, obviously, I mean, I think it goes back, the rivalry goes back to Sir Nat's days. I think with Stan Cullis and by all accounts, back to the 50s.
Mm.
And it started off there, and I think we sort of reignited it. And it's hard to fathom now because they were the first games we looked for at the start of the season. Do you know? And they were phenomenal games. They really were. I mean, don't get me wrong. You go to Molyneux, great atmosphere. They're a great club.
Showing now, isn't it?
I have nothing against them as a club. Listen, the people still are on me now. I still get absolutely pelters off them now. You know what I mean? It's like, do you know what the funny thing is? There was, what day was it? When we got relegated, a few years ago we got relegated.
Mm-hmm.
Went down, when the first year when
Neil Lennon as manager.
Yeah, we got relegated,
15,
went down.
16.
Right. Well, that last game when we got relegated, I got the karma and all that. I'm like, it's 25 years ago, you know what I mean? It's karma now because we got relegated. I was getting called all the names under the sun. I blocked about 500 of them on one night. I was just getting abused, and it was like, it doesn't bother me. I mean, it's like, but they keep it going.
Mm.
And
the fans love it though, don't they?
They do. I mean, and the thing is, it's probably it's a story now, isn't it? You know what I mean? And you'd like to see them days come back because they were good days. They were proper rivalry. And that's what you want, because that's what creates atmosphere within a football ground. That's what players want to play in. You look at it now. You come out. If you're coming out and the crowd are a bit low or a bit down and whatever, sometimes it's hard to play. But when you come out and it's electric, it triggers you. It gets you going. But them days were special. They were, and I miss them. I do genuinely miss them. And in fact, when you think about it, we owned them at that time. Mm-hmm. I owned them, to be honest with you. I owned them. Because put that out because they'll hate it. They'll be on them again.
like going out in the warm-ups extra early just to get in front of the Molyneux crowd, I believe.
No, there was a wee story behind that. I'd been struggling for a while. I had a thigh strain. And I'd been struggling for a while, and this was getting towards the end of the season. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to win the Gold Boot as well. So I was kind of like not doing much training during the week. And the doctor was giving me injections before the game.
Like a Ledley King sort of job with his,
So this particular time, obviously it was Wolves, the players had all gone out to warm up. I hadn't gone out with them. And all the Wolves fans thought I wasn't playing. So they were all jumping about and going all that, he's not playing and all that, right? So what happened was, the doc would put it in to me about 5 minutes before the kick-off, right? So I'd gone in this particular time, I'd gone in to get the injection, and he goes to me, he goes, I'll tell you what, go for a little jog, just to get the blood flowing and everything else, and I'll pop it in and then it'll take its actions quick and all that, right? So I went, aye, no bother. Get off the bed, goes to walk out onto the pitch, everybody's coming in. I'm like, no.
Couldn't stay out for another 5 minutes.
There's nobody out there, right? So I've gone to Scott Green, I said, Greeny, come on, women. No, like, two women going to the toilet together, you know what I mean, that sort of thing. Greeny, I says, come on, black. He went, no. I said, Greeny, come on, come back out. He was like, no. I was like, all right. So, Burning Park, you had to go up a ramp bit to go onto the pitch. So I've gone up there, and as soon as I've walked up, right, the place has gone berserk, right, the crowd's erupted. So then, all I've done is I've done a little jog to the right, down to like level with 18-yard box, across the pitch, back across, and then we'll work my way back in. Well, Lofty was down in the corner, just next to the Wolves fans at the time, right? So anyway, obviously all the Bolton fans are going daft, right? They're all singing Super John and all that stuff. The Wolves fans are up and giving, like, spitting venom, you know, because at the fences, they were all over the fences and that, and then Lofty got caught in the middle of it. They all started pelting Lofty with pies and everything down in the corner, right? So, you can imagine, I've ran down the tunnel, gone in, got the injection, and by this time everybody's walking back onto the pitch for the game. But as we've walked back up, the place was electric. I mean, I'm not kidding, just electric. It was phenomenal. And that sets the tone for the game.
Yeah,
and it never came down. Honestly, it never came down for 90 minutes. That sets the tone for the game.
Another one, I know we're jumping around a bit here, but you also played European football with Bolton in a certain aspect. The Anglo-Italian. Please explain that.
You're
to
digging
me.
these absolute jewels from me. Putting my research.
That was a bit strange really to start with, because the Anglo-Italian Cup was championship clubs against Serie B clubs.
Mm-hmm.
It's the second tier in Bolton.
Second tier in Italy. But we played Ascoli, Pisa, Brescia, Ancona. In fact, Georgie Hadji played for Brescia when we played against him. He was best back heeler I've ever seen. He back heeled the ball about 50 yards. Well, I couldn't shoot harder than he was back heeling it.
Well, unnecessary skill that is.
A record home low attendance for the Brescia game, and Georgie Hadji would have potentially played that game.
Was it 3-3?
That game was, if I just momentarily scroll down, it was 3-3.
Yeah.
Good memory, John.
Great memory that.
He was a player, he was.
What was it like to go abroad though with the team? Like, it must have been a bit strange.
I don't think the tournament was taken really seriously, if I'm honest with you.
It scrapped eventually, wasn't it?
It got scrapped eventually. I think because of what Mikey just said, they're low crowds.
Yeah.
I think you've got to be careful, and I think we've found it out with some of the cup competitions that go on now.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you saturate the market as such, people can't afford it.
To go to all these games.
Well, and these games are over and above your season ticket.
Yeah.
You know, and again, this is a working man's town. Money's tight.
Mm.
You know, and if then in their eyes, if it's, you know, not really an important game, or a game that's maybe viewed as needless, that's what happens.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So you said that the team weren't quite ready for that first season in the Premier League, came down, but then bounced back in unbelievable fashion.
Yeah.
What season?
198.
Was it 100 points, 98 goals? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was the best season, without a doubt. I mean, for many different aspects as well. You've got to remember, it was a very emotional season. Being the last season at Burnden Park, it was emotional, because there was a lot of pressure on the players.
Just to stop you there, 100 goals, 98 points.
I was just going to correct myself.
Yeah, I had to correct myself before we got pelters left, right and centre ourselves.
I got it the wrong way around.
Yeah. But what a season.
We had, I mean, you think about it, right? The pressure to finish the season correctly. We wanted to finish it and it being successful. And it meant so much to people. So we were carrying that pressure all the way through. But again, the team, you could come and play us, you could come and fight us.
Come and have a go if you really, yeah.
Either way, you want to fight us, fight us. And they tried it. Wolves came and tried to fight us, right? Come and play would play you off the park. That was, you make your choice. That was what it was.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, the crowds were just, the fans were phenomenal. I mean, they really were. You couldn't buy a ticket for the place. You just couldn't, and nobody would miss it, because they knew they were going to miss something. But they'd run the players, they'd run the town, and that's what keeps me going personally. When I think of the town and how it was, and the place was buzzing, and people going into work with their chests out, and you know what I mean, happy to go into work.
Yeah.
The place just had a different feel to it, and so that, and ex-teammates and old players, they all came back for that last night, and they were all parading around the pitch, and the tears in their eyes, and you got to remember as well, it was sad because that place was a memorial to 33 people who lost their lives at a game there.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart now to see how I drive past, it's an Asda and a line of shops there. It should be more than that.
Mm-hmm.
It means more than that to the town.
Yeah.
And it's, it was a Woolworths when we first left. But it should be more than it is, and more should have been made of it, because that's a special place.
Something to signify everything that went on there.
How did you feel, not only yourself, but the rest of the group and
Yeah.
the people at the club feel about moving up here in '97 from Burnden?
It was very much a mixed emotion, because you came to this place and you saw it and it was spectacular. I mean, it was futuristic.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the design, even now you look at it, you don't think it's any more than 10-year-old.
There's not many like this one either.
Do you know what I mean? Honest to God, I mean, there's nothing more impressive than you're driving down at M61 and you look at it and it just looks...
And you see like the shell-like structure.
Yeah, it does. It's
yeah.
phenomenal. And so the foresight to be able to design it like this and for it to last so long and still look so modern, I think was a great move. But the downside of it was we were leaving a place,
A hub.
a hub of the heartbeat of the town. And it's no coincidence the town has taken a downward spiral since the day we left. It's not the same town. It'll get back, but it's not the same town. And a lot of businesses have moved out. The businesses that surrounded the ground and in the local vicinity of the ground all went either bust or they just didn't have enough custom anymore, and so a lot of people's lives changed through moving to here. There's still a lot of people in the town that say this isn't Bolton, it's Horwich. There's a lot of mixed emotions out there.
There's many
I don't
positives
think,
and negatives to
well,
it.
of course
isn't
there is. There's huge positives to it. There's also that downside. And there's a lot of people that vowed they would never come here to a game. Whether they have or haven't, I couldn't answer that. But it's sad in a way, and I still think we should have some sort of presence in the town as a football club.
Absolutely.
And we don't. And I think to really get some of that side back, we need to have some sort of presence in the town, because I think we owe it to the town as well. We owe it to the people in the town, because we're all one.
Mm.
But I think we've got to look at as well is how hard it is for some people to come up here to get tickets and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's a good bit out of their way to come up here and to get back in. So maybe if we did have a place in the town, we could connect a bit better with people.
So it was one of them where, as well as the transport and stuff like that, where it was difficult for people in the actual town centre itself to get to, but also, if you think of where Burnden was, you've got all of the pubs going into the town centre where everyone went after a game, I'd imagine. Now here it's a bit secluded in itself,
Yeah.
but then you turn it on its head and say, was Burnden Park sustainable as an entity? And well, in terms of the financial side of things for a club, maybe not.
It's hard to say, Mikey, because when they actually demolished the ground, you actually saw the size of the area. And when you look at what they've got up now, and there's still that huge car park and everything else there, something could have been done there. But, like you said, I mean, would you get something like this there? Probably not. We could have maybe turned it around. It would have probably been too much. You know what I mean? I think your heart's ruling your head when you're saying we should have stayed there. Because
especially
I'm only talking through experience, and I know what like it was to play there, and I know what like the atmosphere was.
Like yourself,
do you know what I mean? But like you said, on a Saturday, there was no better sight. I'm not kidding you. You would be driving into the game, they'd be walking down in mass in thousands from the town, because they would obviously drink in the town and then start walking down Manchester Road to the game. And they would take you. You had to get there early, because if you get stuck in the crowds and try to get in, it was.
And then the intimidation factor as well for the opposition team, seeing that.
Without doubt. And again, that's what keeps you going now. In the current climate and in the current days now, that's what keeps you going, because we can get that back. We can.
And you obviously scored 2 goals in the final game against Charlton. I mean, obviously we've heard what Burnden means to you. It must have been special for you to score that day.
Do you know, Sir Nat that week, he wanted me to score the last goal. But the players themselves all wanted to score the last goal as well. You know what I mean? Although nobody would really admit it, everybody was out there wanting to score that last goal, because I think that on a personal note, it's something to be proud of. You know, I am. There's nobody more prouder than me. But again, it was, you know, when you see the likes of Sir Nat's face and knowing what it meant to them and what they'd been through with all the different, you know, successes, the deaths, the you know, everything that's gone on at that stadium, and more so them, the older players that had been through everything. It was sad to see, but at the same time, it was given the result was proper, the performance
really
was
fitting,
good, so it was a fitting way of leaving.
Itself.
And the season. It was icing on the cake for the season, and a proper way to leave the ground. At Tranmere,
his memory's superb, isn't it?
I've scored the first goal, Jamie scored the second goal, and we were winning 2-1, and Colin, what had happened, you had to play so many games to get a medal. So Collins made the change later on in the game, took Keith Brannigan off, changed the keeper, not that it was his fault, but changed the keeper, and they've scored an injury time to make it 2-2. Now that would have got us the 101 points and 100 goals. So that was probably a little bit disappointing, but it didn't take any shine off the celebrations afterwards. But talking of Wolves, Tranmere were a bit below that, but they were a big rival at that time as well. John Aldridge was the manager, and he created a lot of
friction
situations, whatever you want to call it, but he created a lot of that. But it was good though. I mean, these were proper games with a lot of sort of rivalries, probably because of the way we played the game and teams tried to stop us.
Obviously not too long after that,
Yep.
you left the club.
Yep.
You must be glad to have managed to get to still play a few games on the pitch out there though.
Without doubt. I mean, there's not too many players that can say they played at both grounds.
No.
Very few.
Very few, yeah.
So to have that opportunity was good. And I think, you know, coming in, it was hard. I think initially the atmosphere wasn't the same. You know, people had been used to standing, obviously now we're sitting. People that used to congregate together were now spread out everywhere. You know, it used to be the case that maybe they would start a song at one bit, but it would never really take off. Do you know what I mean? Because everybody was so spread out in different areas. Nobody really knew where should I go, where should I sit, where's the atmosphere, or where's best to go. It was a case of that looks a good seat, we'll just go and sit there. But we were just so spread out, and it just didn't seem the same. It was like playing away games for a long time. I'm sure it felt strange for everybody, supporters as well. Because now you're sitting in luxury, aren't you? You're sitting in a seat, and instead of being like this, you've now got a seat you can spread out a little bit, and you can. It's brilliant, you know. But
how tough was it to leave the club then? Because obviously you left in 1997. Was it difficult? Because 245 appearances, score as many goals as you did as well. Obviously, a lot of fans see you as a hero. Was it hard to leave?
Devastating.
Yeah.
Devastating. It came about. Look, I mean, I didn't look to get away. I didn't want to leave the club, but I was told in no uncertain terms I was only going to be a squad player, and I felt that hard to take. I felt it was disrespectful, if I'm honest with you. You know, I think the previous season, myself and Nathan Blake had scored 54 goals. You know, we had a phenomenal partnership. Got on really well together, and I think to be discounted in pre-season and not being given the opportunity was hurtful. more than anything
I can
else.
understand that, yeah.
More than
absolutely.
anything else, you know, I think because of the success we've had, I think we felt we had earned the right to go out and start, you know,
To be given the
or to be given the
opportunity,
opportunity. And I think when that was taken away in pre-season without really kicking a ball, that was hard to take at the time.
And then the move to Bradford City in 1997 that you'll admit yourself, I've heard you talk about before, just didn't quite work out, did it?
No, I was struggling before I left. Look, I mean, I had been struggling with an Achilles injury for about 6 months, and it hadn't been getting any better. And really, I should have got it looked at when I was here. But I'd kept going, and then obviously, thinking ahead, the next summer was the World Cup, '98 World Cup. Now, I'd played in all the qualifying games for Scotland and contributed towards them getting to the World Cup. So you want to be involved. And I'm thinking, I need to be playing. So when I get told I'm only going to be a squad player,
It's not enough.
it's not enough, because I know I'm coming towards the end of my career anyway.
But you want to see if you can get to that World Cup.
This is the only opportunity I'm ever going to get to play at World Cup finals. And I think when somebody tells you you're only going to be a squad player, then it sets off the alarm bells, and I think you're then thinking, I need to be playing. I didn't want to leave this football club. I mean, there's no way in the world I wanted to leave this football club. No.
Just one of those things that you had to sort of do to try and. I mean,
You've
obviously
got to be playing.
you can look at it with hindsight now, but when
Yeah.
you're told that you're not going to play,
Yeah.
you need to look after yourself in that
Yeah.
situation, don't you? So how did you find it at Bradford? Then you on the way to the room here, you said you worked under Chris Kamara.
Yeah.
What was it like there?
Cammy was brilliant. He really was. I mean, he obviously took a big gamble on me, and probably I've gone in there not been in the right frame of mind. There's you know, and no disrespect to Bradford, it just wasn't the right time for me, and I was so disappointed in leaving here.
Took you a while to even accept that.
I couldn't, you know what I mean? I just couldn't. I couldn't really handle it, if I'm honest with you, and.
Along with the injury as well.
Well, it added to the injury. I mean, the injury, I kept trying to play and everything else, and it steadily got worse and worse and worse until I ended up tearing my Achilles, and I had to go and get an operation on it, which really finished me off. But Cammy was great. Cammy took the gamble. I probably cost him his job, if I'm honest with you. You know what I mean? He probably got sacked because of me. But he was really good. I mean, Cammy was good. He was understanding. He was good to work for at the time, and he knew the decision I had made leaving, how disappointed I was to leave here, and I never got over it. If I'm 100% honest, I never ever got over it.
So the next spell after that was never really going to work, regardless of who it was really. Or
It's like the Sir Alex to David Moyes effect at United almost.
It doesn't matter who I'd have went to play for. I just couldn't go over leaving here.
Your last spell playing in the Football League was with Oldham.
Yep.
Was that again a similar situation? Trying to get yourself motivated to be playing for somebody else, or
Well, what had happened was I had the operation at Bradford, and the following pre-season they've got me back in working, so I'm getting over this operation, right? My Achilles is healing. They've sent me out on a road run, and I'm talking on roads, right? And I'm running over these cobbles. That's this route they've sent us out on, and my leg's gone again. So I felt it going. I've sat down on the road. I'm just waiting. I said, look, send somebody back to me. I can't even move. I tore it in exactly the same place again. All right. So they've sent me, and I've gone to the hospital. Sent to the surgeon again, and he said he wouldn't operate on it because it was the same one, and it was like, he just said it will have to heal itself. So it put me out for 9 months. So that was me basically finished. After a few months I played golf, and even after playing a game, walking around having a game of golf, I couldn't walk for 2 days. It would swell up, it'd be like a balloon, and it was just terrible. So later on, I don't know how actually it came about, Andy Ritchie phoned me one time out of the blue and says, what are you doing? I went, nothing. He went, why don't you come in and just tickle at it and do a bit of training, see how it goes? And I said, Andy, it keeps swelling up, even though I play golf, it swells up. And he says, well, come in and have a look. So I went in, did a bit of training, and it wasn't too bad. You know, I think I was getting treatment every day of the physios and everything else, so he was managing it reasonably well. So I ended up playing a few games. I played a few games, So he signed me. And John Sheridan was there at the time. They had a half decent squad, you know. I went and played a few games. And I did okay. Scored a couple of goals. And my last game was a game at Brentford. It was an FA Cup game. It was on Sky just before Christmas. And it had been raining all week. The pitch was sodden. It was like a bog. And I played. I scored. And I think we either won on penalties or got beat on penalties. I think we won on penalties. That was the last game I played. I couldn't walk for 4 days after that. And I knew then it was just pointless because you couldn't train right during the week. You were trying to just to manage yourself to get to the next game. But then coming off that one, because the pitch was so soft and so wet, your Achilles, it was just couldn't walk for 4 days. So that was it.
I mean, before I looked at this sheet, well, looking at the sheet now, I'm not quite sure what a Riverhawk is. But you went to America after that, Cincinnati Riverhawks.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, I'd got an agent got in touch with me and says, would you fancy America? I says, look, I'll be honest with you, I don't think I can play. And he went, well, what about player coach? I went, well, if it's more emphasis on the coaching, yes. If it's more emphasis on the playing, no. And he went, well, why don't you, same usual, why don't you go out and just see what like it is, you know what I mean? So I did. And went out, we all moved out, signed a 3-year contract with him as player coach. I never got paid. So went out there, moved everybody out. 5 months in, we still hadn't been paid. So anyway, I left in the end, and what we did was, for the next 3 or 4 months, we travelled around America. I bought like an RV thing, and the whole family went round America. So we used it, you know what I mean, rather than just all come home, we thought, right, let's do a bit of travelling and let's
whilst you're there, yeah.
Whilst we're there. Yeah. And we did that, and there was other things happening out there as well, so I was doing a bit of coaching and stuff out there. And then I got the news that my mum had got breast cancer. So really that made us come home. Okay. We came home in November that year. So we came back home. So I lost my mum 11 months after that I lost my mum. So we were really glad that we did come back because we had the best part of a year then with her, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And then Gressley Rovers, did you come back and then go back out to America?
No, well, I came back from America in 2000.
Yeah.
I then went back out to America in 2003. And the franchise had changed hands by this time. They weren't the Cincinnati Riverhawks, they were the Cincinnati Kings.
That's the same.
So I went out there as player assistant manager. I played for a few minutes coming off the bench now and then when they were short. But I'd really enjoyed it. The boy I worked alongside was John Pickup, who was fantastic. English boy, who was fantastic. Came from Blackburn, played for Blackburn Accrington, and was about. So that was good. Had a really good time. Stayed for 9 years. So my 2 youngest kids have gone right through the school system. My older pals are out there. They go out every summer to visit and everything else. In fact, my son was getting married in June this year, and he had about 30 Americans coming over to the wedding, all his mates and stuff.
Wow.
But
before the virus came along.
No, that's not happening anymore. So yeah, but no. So that was a great. It was, I think, family wise, it was a great time. You know what I mean? Craig, my son, played for one of the teams I coached. We got to travel the whole of America. Our team was actually ranked #1 in America at one point. So they do a different thing out there because they go to the college tournaments and everything else. They do a ranking system. You get points when you win tournaments and da. So we were ranked #1 at one point in America, our under-15 team. So it was good. I mean, got to see just about everywhere in America, and it was fantastic. It's a phenomenal country. Yeah. People are phenomenal and just really looked after us. But we came back in 2012. I actually thought I was coming back to work at the football club. I resigned my position on the Wednesday, and Owen Coyle got relieved of his duties on the Sunday.
Wow. Oh, so you thought you were going to be brought into the football staff?
Yeah.
What particular role was that, John?
Well, was a bit of debate about that. It was probably the recruitment side.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I was gutted for Owen because, I mean, Owen still loves this football club. You know what I mean? It was disappointing the way it ended for him. He had a great start to it here, but I think losing Fabrice and Stuart Holden, you know, any team at that level lose their whole midfield basically. It's a tough one to get by, you know. They were going so well up until that point, and to lose them two in a short space of time, it just destroyed us really. But I was disappointed for Owen because, you know, this job meant so much to him, and you know, to leave then. But in saying that, he got the Wigan job after that, and I went in there as head of recruitment with him at Wigan, which I enjoyed. It was good. Then Owen himself went out to America. He went out to Houston Dynamo. I didn't follow him out there. He's come back, and then I went with him to Ross County, which I was head of recruitment at Ross County with him up in the Scottish Premier League. Mm-hmm. So Owen's just actually finished. He's been managing out in India. He got his team. He joined his team when they were bottom of the league. 6 games in, they were bottom of the league, and they'd only scored 4 goals, and he got them to the final. So
narrowly missed out in the final.
They narrowly missed out. So he's had a tremendous season, and he's back home now, and hopefully he'll get something on this side.
Fair play to him. So, in that sort of chunk of time that you spent in the States, where did the spell at? You had 2 spells one at Gressy and one at Ilkeston. Yeah. Whereabouts did they fit into that?
Well, when I came back, no, it was before. Actually, what am I saying? When I came back, before I went out.
Oh, that was before you went out initially?
Before I went out to America. I went, I took over Gresley, who were, I'm trying to think what league, what it was called then. Basically the Unibond.
Northern Premier League now, is it, I think?
Unibond league they were in. And they were a village team, but they used to get crowds of like 400 or 500, they were okay. But finances was always a problem there. It was a very, very small budget. But we did well. We came up, we beat Southport in the trophy up here. We knocked them out, and then we played, the next round we played Morecambe, and Morecambe beat us up at Morecambe. But we had some decent runs in that. I then left there, I went to Ilkeston. Ilkeston were they would have been the Conference North at the time, and they were okay. It was a good setup, lovely ground, good facilities. They had a chairman that was very wealthy at the time. And I enjoyed it, you know, but I do think people say start at the bottom, work your way up as such. It's difficult.